You know, I'm right. The podcast that uncovers the origin stories of some of the biggest names in sports, media, entertainment, and Staten Island. Because Nick Durst here with Joe Calabrese, we got a fellow Staten Islander on with us today. And that, of course, always makes for one of our better episodes.
Yes, you could hear him on the radio during the day here in New York, Z100, 103.5. He's also a huge sports fan like us. We love the Rangers jersey, even though right now they're not experiencing easy times. You're also a huge wrestling fan. We absolutely love that. Without further ado, we would like to welcome Josh Martinez to the show. Josh, we know you're in the middle of working as well as we record this, so just let us know what you need. But how are you, pal? How you doing?
I'm chilling. I'm filling in today as we're recording this from 2 to
I
7.
listened. I listened to you the other day. You filled in for Crystal, right? Still
Yeah, yeah,
filling in
yeah.
for
So
her.
I'm usually on 6 to 10. I'm filling in this week while Crystal's on vacation, so I'm on 2 to 7. And slight flex. I had Chris Jericho in studio a couple hours ago.
Oh, we missed him.
The big, as of this recording, the big match at the Hammerstein Ballroom
Yeah.
happening at the end of the week. So, Mr. New York himself, he must like the Rangers jersey. Of course, his father played with the Rangers.
It's funny. The first thing when he saw me, the first thing he said was, "I like your jersey," and I was like, I just bought this jersey the other day. I've been looking for it for quite some time. 94 patch on it. And like to me, I'm of the mindset that a patch changes the entire jersey and it makes it so much cooler. A lot of people don't see it that way. They think I'm a psycho. I used to think my mom used to hate when I would collect fitteds, but mom, the side patch is different. It's All-Star game. It's World Series. She would hate it. And I told him, I was like, I got it last week. And today was like finally a day that I could put it on. And then it hit me like, oh, Chris Jericho is coming in today too. Like double bonus, I guess.
Yeah. And we're really fortunate right now, Joe, because for everybody who's watching this on YouTube, obviously a lot of our listeners are on Spotify and Apple, but it's not a usual sighting to see Josh without a hat. So we got a very rare sighting to see Josh showing off his nice
True.
So I had cornrows in and I took them out yesterday. And then now my hair is just like still stuck in that way. So I'm just kind of letting it breathe. Right before we got on, I told someone that's in the studio with me, I was like, my hair looks terrible, but fuck it, we ball, I guess. That's what we're going to go with.
There you go. Fair enough. Well, Josh, you pride yourself because of your job. You have to be plugged in at all times. You have to know what's going on. So when you wake up in the morning, what's the first app you're checking on your phone?
I hate to admit it, but it's actually Twitter. I refuse to call it X. If you call it X, whatever. Twitter's because I think Twitter's the easiest to consume so early in the morning because it'll auto update, right? And I gotta say they do a good job with your algorithm where like the first thing you see is kind of what you missed. And a lot of times it's like West Coast games or breaking news. If I'm waking up at 11 o'clock in the morning, breaking news I missed at 7, 8, 9 or whatever. So definitely Twitter. I hate to admit it, but Twitter is absolutely the first one I go to because it's the easiest to digest as well, by the way.
Joe, it's funny because we've been asking this question for a while now, and everybody in the outside world is saying Twitter's dying, get off Twitter, but Twitter is our most common answer.
Because I think it's the easiest to digest, no?
Sure, I agree. Yeah, and I think the algorithm has improved the last year or so. I think Instagram now by far has the worst of all the algorithms. It's like it just shows you the ad stuff and stuff that you really want to see. At least with X, if you search for things or if you're just looking at certain things, the algorithm picks that up, right?
No, 1,000%. And that's why I guess I will be the first to admit I would love to get off of Twitter. I think it's very toxic. But I'm also sadistic. So I'll see like murders on Twitter and I'm like, I'm going to watch this real quick. It's bad. I grew up on rotten.com. It is what it is.
Right. And you got the Eater of Worlds, Bray Wyatt like beer going on for you as well, too. So that kind of helps that.
Exactly.
So like Nick mentioned, we're all Staten Islanders here. So Nick and I, we grew up since we were kids, right? So how has Staten Island, if at all, changed from when you first moved to the island from Brooklyn? I'm also from Brooklyn as well, versus moving back in 2021.
God, didn't think it was possible, but more potholes, more traffic, more agitation, more aggravation.
Don't drive between 2 and 5:30, 6 o'clock here. Don't do it.
It is the dirt worst. And I live like on Richmond Road, so it's like even worse rather. No, I mean, aside from that, which I always joke about, I will say like Staten Island's gotten, dare I say, like nicer. It's definitely gotten much nicer. There's definitely more people are kind of pumping money into places where, I can go. Last night I went to Beso right on Bay Street. And that's a restaurant that kind of expanded over the last few months. And literally last night trying to look for something to eat, there was a lot of like viable options. It isn't just pizza anymore or an Italian restaurant and Taco Bell. Like there's more to it. So I would definitely say, aside from the aggravation and agitation that comes from potholes and traffic, the food options are so much better.
That New York mall, outside mall, is pretty crazy, and it just doesn't fit in too well with the neighborhood. But
Yeah.
By the way,
there.
I am very adamant and very vocal that LA Fitness there sucks. I hate it. I'm still a member there because I have like a really cheap membership, but the saunas never worked. I hate it. It is the dirt where it is the drizzling
I
shit.
heard that all
gym.
LA Fitnesses, or at least in New York, like banned the saunas because like of what happened to that guy maybe a year ago or 2 years ago, where he got stuck in the sauna overnight.
No, that was at the one by Great Kills or whatever, and
Yeah.
that was well after the sauna issues of the New York one. And the only reason why I go there is because it's probably like the cheapest gym option in all of Staten Island. It's like $40 a month, so fine, whatever.
Not bad. So Staten Island, it's a diverse group of people, and a lot of people end up going to the same spot you went to, the College of Staten Island. So what was your experience like there? I know you give them a lot of shout outs on the radio. You did a lot of great work with some of their student radio people recently. So what do you think about the College of Staten Island? Do you think it gets a bad rap?
Oh, absolutely. And even when I was there over the summer, I told them, I said, this people looked at it as though it's the 13th grade. I remember hearing that a lot, living on the island, like, oh, you're going to go to CSI. It was almost like, you're an idiot if you go to CSI. But knowing what we know now, you're probably smarter to go to CSI. My brother got a double master's from Columbia, eventually got his PhD. And he says all the time, if he knew then what he knows now, he would have never went to Columbia. The amount of money that he's like been screwed with student loans. He's like, he was better off. He should have went to Baruch. He should have went to a CUNY, as a minority to, minority, single parent, like the whole 9 yards. I got paid to go to the College of Staten Island, for example. Like I got paid every semester, a nice check. And whether or not I had a connection at the bookstore doesn't matter. So I was making a good chunk of change going to college. And even that wasn't enough to keep me there.
So let's talk about sports again, because we mentioned the Rangers. Thankfully, you're not a Mets fan. Couldn't imagine anybody being a Mets fan, even though they got Juan Soto. But you're a huge Knicks fan, you're a huge Rangers fan, you're a huge Yankees fan. 3 for 3. But you're a Commies fan, you're a Commanders fan, apparently. So, I mean, I have an uncle, he's a Steelers fan. My other uncle's a Cowboys fan. They grew up in the 70s. The Giants and the Jets weren't really good then, so it's like they kind of adopted the teams from that era. So just talk about, being ingrained with New York sports. Obviously, you get a lot of athletes who are passing by with your job there. But the Commanders, how'd that happen?
I still, for whatever reason, remember it very vividly. I was in kindergarten, and I don't know if you guys remember, and I don't even know if they still do this, but if the Jets or Giants were on Sunday Night Football on ESPN, they will simulcast it. At the time, it was the WB, Warner Brothers Network, on Channel 11. So the Giants were playing the Redskins, and a couple of my friends were Giants fans, and I had a pair of Zubaz shorts that were Redskins colors. And I was like, yo, I'm a Redskins fan. I got shorts to prove it. And I've always wanted to be different and whatever. And I was like, yo, I'm a Redskins fan. They ended up losing the game, but I'm like, I can't switch just because they lost. And I shit you not, because of that, I was like, I'm just going to root for this team. And there was not much to root for since I've been a fan. And then once you start playing Madden, I remember I had Madden, was it 96 or 97 for Super Nintendo? And I remember playing with the Redskins, and then you kind of, this is before the internet because I'm old. You would see like the New York Daily News Monday mornings to see like the box score and like line up who was number what. So now my favorite player, it's Terry Allen. Okay, that's my favorite player because there was no Sunday ticket. So I would just sit there watching either the Jets or Giants at 1, the other team at 4, because they used to keep them apart. And I would just see the top corner, and like the score would just kind of scroll by, or there would be kind of that in-game highlight or during halftime. And that's how I would follow the Redskins. And then you just fall in love with these random ass players. Once you start playing video games, forget about it. Somebody has a 99 speed and you're like, I love that person. Meanwhile, they're like the sixth cornerback that never even makes the actual team. But because they have 99 speed, you're like, I love that person. And it's been miserable, dog. It sucks.
Well, Jaden Daniels, I mean, you find your guy, perhaps.
I'm trying so hard not to get excited because I saw this with RG3. Right. So it's all too good to be true. I'm going to be in Denver.
Stadium down there.
What happened?
They need a new stadium, the Commanders.
Yeah, it really is not a great stadium. They've done certain things to make it better. Still not the best, not the worst. I honestly, genuinely believe MetLife is actually worse than
the worst.
It's like an aluminum can. It's just
and
like
it's swamped. Terrible.
Getting in and out is miserable. There's no easy way to get there. There's no easy way to leave. Even when you do the whole, I'll drive and I'll park all the way at the end and basically walk a half mile, you still got to leave before the concert's over or the game is over. So you have to hope that it's like a relatively close game that you feel comfortable leaving. Because if it's a blowout, everyone's going to leave early too. So you're still getting stuck in traffic.
They could have made a state-of-the-art stadium, and they should have put a roof that could have concerts all the time. And they wanted to save money, but they actually cost themselves money. They would have a Super Bowl every 4 years. But, I mean, what can we say about the billionaires in town? I don't know.
Well, at least your owner is starting to spend like a drunken sailor. So
true. It's very, very true.
My owner, I think Joe wants him to buy the Jets.
He's evil Uncle Stevie, but he could buy the Jets. Sure, absolutely.
He's not going to buy it because 17-year-old named Brick is running things based on what he sees on Madden, according to reports that came out.
That's
today.
Insane. That is absolutely.
Well, you know
insane.
what I always said before Mets got Cohen was that I always thought that James Dolan would have been better off as a baseball owner because he would always spend back in the day before the salary cap with the Knicks. Maybe it never worked out, but he always had the desire to win. And I thought he was in the wrong sports, but now he's taking a step back. Things have kind of turned around here. So, Joe, maybe Woody Johnson should get some advice from James Dolan, as hard as it is to believe.
Yeah, I was going to say Woody Johnson, he's got to further his political endeavors as he did years ago. And I definitely think the Jets definitely need new ownership. I think the Maras, even
the Jets
though
need their own stadium. That's what they need to get around.
They've always needed their own stadium. They tried the West Side Stadium. That wasn't going to work. That was never going to work anyway.
They should go to Queens. Steve Cohen can make some space in his casino lot that he's building for the Jets. And he can own
fine.
The stadium, you know?
Like I said, Uncle Stevie, it'd be great.
Because now the bigger issue with MetLife Stadium, guys, is that we're never getting a WrestleMania again. We're only going to get SummerSlams. SummerSlam coming in August, 2 nights. No more WrestleManias in MetLife.
But I will say, I did go to WrestleMania in Philly. The first night was cold. Now I bundled up. I bought I had like 3 different layers on, up top, up bottom. Like I was chilling. People were complaining around me, and I was just like chilling, comfortable. But I brought like 14 hand warmers with me, and we're literally like handing it out to people. And everybody was so excited. That Sunday, I was like, yo, it's mad nice now, but once the sun goes down, it's going to get cold. It did not get cold enough where I was dying that Sunday night, dude, and just sweating. And then I left with 2 chairs. So I'm basically doing like a trap workout while walking the equivalent of like 2 miles to my car. Bro, sweating. I was sweating bacon grease when I got to my car. My shoulders were like sore. I ended up getting sick. I missed work for like 3 days because of WrestleMania. Well worth it, by the way. But
Joe, how did you get your chair out of Nassau Coliseum for Saturday Night Main Event?
So here's what they do, and it works the same thing for stadium shows. So Josh, my friend and I, a friend of Nick and I, we went to Saturday Night's Main Event, and
yeah, Josh, you got to know that Joe's nickname is Front Row Joe because he was sitting and talking with Pat McAfee on the broadcast, so you could see him right there. What is You Know I'm Right podcast sweatshirt, so he knows how to rep the brand, so it's good stuff.
And Drew McIntyre, he hasn't responded to us, but he definitely stole the line off the podcast shirt. If you watch Monday Night Raw and you watch him deliver that line, that felt like it was kind of like thrown in the script. Anyway, Point being is that this is something that Nick doesn't know because he doesn't go to too many events. We've been to events before, but he doesn't sit on the floor. They tie it up, right? Like all the chairs are tied
Zip
together.
ties.
So you can't just like pull a chair. Like you got to pull the tie first, and then there's usually a vetting process. But for me, I've been to SummerSlam. I went to SummerSlam a couple of years ago in Nashville. I've been to Manias at MetLife, even though I didn't really sit on the floor, but I know friends who've sat on the floor. And for Saturday night's main event, we got chairs, right? So with the chairs, there's no room in my house. There's no room in my garage. So we sold the chairs and we got a couple $100 for it. And we ended up sitting not too far away, again, from Pat McAfee right there for a very, very discounted price, thanks to selling the chairs.
Well, you
So
sold the chair, and the chair paid for the ticket. I mean, that's
that's
crazy. That's
yep,
the way to
that's
do it.
how to do it. Josh
So
knows.
this is gonna sound a little bougie, but for WrestleMania, they put me in like a celebrity section. I don't know how I got there. I am not of
Well,
that.
you're a celeb. You're on the midday in the
He's gonna
radio in New
sing
York
with John
City.
Alba.
I'm not. I had better seats than him. I'm not sitting. I was by Wale. I was by George Kittle. Like I had no business being there.
Yeah.
Like it was really
That
weird.
was like me in Nashville.
You were Dwight Howard, Joe.
So we had Scott Hamilton on, who was an Olympic gold medalist figure skater from the 80s. He lives in Nashville. He's a skater. His kid's a skater. He plays hockey. I sat the second row. First row was Ryan Tannehill, Taylor Lewan, Derrick Henry, Dwight Howard, Kid Rock, and I don't know if you watch Logan Paul's podcast, now that he's a wrestler, but basically his co-hosts and all the guys on his production team for the show were all sitting there. And I got the same look from everybody. They were like,
Who is
who
this
are
guy?
you? Who are you?
Front row Joe. He's there.
Yeah, dude. I don't know how I got there, but on Sunday, my entire section was like clear. There was not many people there. People came for Saturday because The Rock was wrestling, and I guess a lot of people like George Kittle, Vanessa Hudgens, they were there. But it was definitely a significant difference Saturday to Sunday in my section because I had the exact same seats for both. So I was supposed to be like row 8. I ended up like row 4, I believe, because I just walked up. I mean, I'm talking like seat 1 through 12, empty, nobody there. So, just maybe take an extra seat or whatever, like it doesn't matter. But to your point, they weren't really looking for proof by Sunday night. I think they just kind of wanted to wrap things up, and I think they wanted to kind of just like go about their business. So they literally just like we just broke it apart ourselves, and they were just like, all right, cool, go ahead, like Nito, just leave. We don't want you here. They did not check to see that, me and one other person have 4 chairs in total. There was none of that.
Well, Joe, I'll tell you what. We better stick with Josh. Maybe we can get in there at SummerSlam with him to get some.
Hey, listen,
help him carry him out.
I got an invite to Final Battle tomorrow. I have nobody to go with, so I told him I was like, I'll let you guys know what's up. So who knows?
Oh, Joe, maybe you're available. Go see
have
Jericho
plans.
and Cardona.
I have plans tomorrow. If I didn't have plans, I swear I would take you up on the offer. I'd take you out for a drink or two beforehand.
That's all I asked for.
Next time. So, Josh, when did you? Obviously, you're a big sports fan. When did you decide? Okay, I want to try to pursue a career in sports. And how did that one internship you took that was outside of sports or that radio promotions job, whatever it may be, really alter the career path you took?
So I went to a school called the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. Now I think it's like CSB, School of Media and Arts or something like that. But I went to the Connecticut School of Broadcasting and I went to do TV sports. That was the goal. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a sports center anchor. I wanted to be like the first Puerto Rican sports center anchor. That was like my intent. And then a gentleman by the name of Bartel, who's the music director down the hall at 103.5 KTU, he was like, yo, I have this internship at KTU. I want to hook you up with it. And like, long story short, an extreme way of saying it is like, I grew up like, poor, basically, right? That's the easiest way to say it. So, it's kind of the mindset of like, take advantage of any opportunity you have. So I was like, all right, we'll see where this internship takes me. I didn't really want to do the music thing, but like, all right, let's just see what we do. I like music, right? We all like music. We all grew up listening to KTU or Z100 here in this building, and literally that was 16 and a half years ago this summer.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. And I've just been like, all right, let's just see where this takes me. And then once you find out, like Z100 is a big deal in New York City. We all know that, right? But then you realize like the magnitude of Z100 globally, that it is literally like the biggest pop station in the world. Like I have a friend who does radio in Mexico, and she discovered like me through Z100 and is like, yo, I listen to Z100 all the time. There are people that reach out to me from Australia. There's people that's reached out to me from the UK in radio and also just listening through the iHeart radio app. And it's, once you kind of learn the significance of Z100, it's like, you know what? If that's the top spot, that's where I want to be. That is like the top dog. That's where I'm going to get to. So literally from my internship on, it was just doing whatever I could to get to Z100. To this day, I'm a firm believer manifestation is real. Your thoughts become things. I got my first iPhone in like 2011. And I put on the alarm, because you can put like a little note on the alarm. I put, I will get to Z100. And to this day, that is still like one of my alarms. The other one is I will get to WWE. So I'm halfway there. Halfway.
Listen, I think you do a much better job than Peter Rosenberg. That's just
I knew that was coming. I knew it.
I'll take that. I'll take that as a compliment.
Man.
It's funny because a lot of people will kind of be like, "Oh, you want to be like Rosenberg, for example?" Because that's kind of the easiest thing. I grew up more Todd Pettengill, but you want to be like Rosenberg. And I usually say like, "Nah, I want to be like Josh." And I hope people understand that when I say that, I'm not, for lack of a better term, I'm not trying to shit on Rosenberg by no means. You know what I'm saying? I think there's room for multiple media personalities, radio personalities in wrestling, especially when you consider the demographic that he and I reach, with him doing sports and hip hop, me doing pop and pop culture, and being on in more markets than he is. I think there's definitely room for us and even more people. I think that I think that both companies are missing out on taking advantage of media personalities in every market. And here's an idea.
We've said this. Nick and I have pitched WrestleMania and all these big events should have Radio Row.
So
it's like they do for the Super Bowl.
Well, they do. You just have to like.
Well, now
apply,
they do, but
it's like podcasting and Fightful gets accepted, and I'm not sure.
Yeah, but it's just strict wrestling media, though. I mean, like open it up to like all the major media markets in all these major cities, like Z100. I think you like we would all be perfect, but you in particular.
So I think one thing that I think is, so the example I give, every event they have, there's breaks, there's commercial breaks for TV, even live events. You guys have been to live events. They're so much fun. There's still some break time in between matches. I don't understand why they don't give find a radio personality or two in every market, give them a segment or two. It could be t-shirt toss, sign of the night, anything like that, where they go out either on the ramp or outside the ring, and they just kind of participate in this 90-second break. To me, it's like, bro, if I did that, you don't think I'm going to talk about it on the radio for weeks before the event? And you know what that company gets? A shit ton of free promotion.
Yep. Because
now I'm bragging about, I can't believe I'm going to be at Madison Square Garden. I'm going to be part of WWE Raw live event, whatever the situation may be, the PLE. Same thing with AEW.
I hope Tony Khan's taking notes, Joe. Need to fill those seats up.
That's right.
I will say this. In my resume, I do have freelance contributor to All Elite Wrestling, because he was hanging out with me one night. And this is one of the biggest flexes of my career. So let me talk my shit real quick. It was a Monday night. Tony Khan came in. He was like an hour late. Not his fault. Shit happens. Traffic. And he's like, hey, I have nothing to do. Can I just hang out here for the rest of the night? And I was just like, yeah, like during my show. And he's like into what I'm saying. He's into the pop thing where literally Monday Night Football's on. He's, Jags owner or whatever. So we're shooting the shit about football, and we're not talking about wrestling at all. We do an interview. It's like 20 minutes. We're done. And he's like, I'm just going to stay here for like another hour if you don't mind. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to kick you out, guy. It was literally me, him, and then like one of the marketing guys. Three of us are just hanging out here. And I was like, hey, this was going into Eddie Kingston against Claudio for the Ring of Honor title or whatever at Grand Slam. I gave him an idea. I said, this is what I envision, whatever. And he's like looking at me and he takes out his phone. He's like, I'm listening. I'm just taking a note. I was like, yeah, cool. They opened the show with my idea. They opened AEW Grand Slam with my idea. And I immediately, I have his phone number. We've texted. So I text him Thursday morning. I said, dude, didn't want to bother you during the show. Holy shit. Like, can't believe you used my idea. And he wrote back the exact same minute. Like, I wrote it at like 11:52. His response was 11:52. Like, dude, it was great. I told you I would use it. Huge fan of your idea. Love to work with you more. Like, chat soon or whatever. And like, I could take a hint. We don't have to be besties. Like, That's the worst thing you could do when you have someone's number is just like keep trying and trying. Yeah, dude. Like I've texted him. Commanders opened up against the Jags a couple of years ago. I texted him from the game. I was like, "Hey man, wish you were here, but I wish nothing but bad luck for you today or whatever." And he wrote back within 5 minutes. Was like, "Dude, have fun at the game. Wish I was there too." But he was like in the UK or some shit. And then like, bro, who am I to be texting Tony Khan? That is like the coolest shit
Really
ever.
impressive.
Look at what anyone says. And like, I
That,
screenshot
Josh,
it.
you got to try to text him during the next NFL draft and be like, I mean, this guy looks pretty good. Let's see if he writes back and fake picks him.
So I interviewed him one time actually, leading when they had the number one overall pick and they got the edge rusher. And I asked him about the draft process, and like he just enjoys talking about things he's passionate about, and clearly he's passionate about the things that he's into, right? So that's NFL, that's wrestling. So he took a liking to me for some reason. I don't know why, but I'm cool with it, dog.
As you should be. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Uh,
total. But I wish I would again. I'm gonna sound ungrateful. I wish they did a better job of their promotional tickets. That's my one quasi complaint with AEW because they'll put you like pretty deep. Free tickets are free tickets.
Yeah.
WWE puts you like first row if it's
yes.
not that big
Yep.
of an event. Like the amount of first row seats I've been in, second row seats, it's preposterous. I'm so spoiled now. I'm an ungrateful bitch. That's what it means.
No, you're good. I have a quick aside. I get two doppelgangers. One is Jimmy Kimmel, and the other one, every single time I go to a wrestling event, somebody always says, "You look exactly like Eddie Kingston." Do you see it?
I could see the Eddie Kingston.
Put your Yankee
Okay.
hat on, Joe, and then
I wish if I had the Yankees hat, it's even more prevalent.
Not the Kimmel, but I could definitely see the Kingston. I usually get this past week during Jingle Ball, I got Teddy Swims a lot.
Yeah, I see it.
And then I get DJ Khaled, but I feel like that's lazy. I feel like just like fat bearded man with big nose. So you just and like my beard is significantly larger, his stomach
Right.
is significantly larger.
Right.
Maybe the noses are the same, but that's it. Like so that one bothers me. I was at WrestleMania in New Orleans and I was going into the bathroom and someone just yelled that, "Oh shit, DJ Khaled." I got so sad. I was like, am I that big? Like I'm taking a piss. I'm like, I can see my dick. So like, I'm not that big.
All right, we'll move on because we want to get to the process before you get to New York, right? Getting your first job with iHeart. You moved to the Midwest, you moved to Des Moines and then Cedar Rapids. From New York City, where you grew up in the middle of the Midwest. I mean, those towns, they're not small, but it's still a big shop,
Yeah,
you
they
know?
are. They're
Yeah.
fucking tiny, dog.
I
They're
I
tiny,
was
tiny
getting
tins.
acclimated and adjusted, to not the greatest city, the biggest city in the world.
You know what? It's as corny as it sounds, but it's just the truth. Like my mindset is I'm only in these cities for business. So like
yes.
when I was in Des Moines, Iowa, I remember my ex was like disappointed in my apartment. It was clean, but she's like, "You don't have anything on the walls. You don't have anything." It literally was like two couches and a TV. That's all I cared about. And that was my living room. And I lived in like a dope ass loft. But I was like, I don't want to make it feel homey, excuse me. As weird as that sounds, I don't want to make it feel homey. Because I genuinely don't want to be comfortable here. I'm not staying in Des Moines for a long time. I'm here for business. I'm out. We'll see what's next. Cedar Rapids sucked. That if the country were a person and you gave an enema to America, you put the Nas right into Cedar Rapids. It is such a shitty city, dude. There's nothing to do. There's nothing fun. There's like no redeeming quality to Cedar Rapids. I met friends there, lifelong friends, cool and all, but like the actual city itself ain't nothing to write home about, which made me appreciate Dayton, Ohio so much more coming on the heels of a shitty Cedar Rapids. And Dayton is where I made lifelong friends and people that I would consider family. And now my daughter is from Dayton, Ohio and lives there currently.
So you moved around these places. Number one, what was there to do there other than work? Was there anything college sports? What did you typically do around there? And then at what point were you making the jumps in the markets that to you it became reality? Like, okay, I'm close. My dream could be happening soon.
I'm gonna get into that in 30 seconds. Let me just air a
Yeah,
phone
go
call.
ahead. Like we mentioned, Joe, Josh is live on the air, so we'll take a listen here and see what he
Well,
has.
I set up a phone call that I could air to make my life easier.
Behind the scenes. Let's watch. The master at work.
How
Riveting.
long is this? 16 seconds. We've been talking about something you stole from work. Z100, still commercial free. I'm Josh Martinez in for Crystal Rosas. What did you steal, Maria?
My review from my boss's stuff.
How did you steal your progress report?
I found a way.
Ta-da.
That's
And
good.
send. And that is how a phone call gets aired that I set up well in advance of this interview purposely. And that's it.
So breaking the fourth wall here, Josh. How do you go about setting up these phone calls?
That one I got, so I'll really take you behind the scenes. That call I got April 5th, 2023. But theater of the mind. If my topic all day has been what did you steal from work,
Yeah.
you're not gonna think that that was from April.
No.
I just kind of edit it, save it, and then I use it again. And today happened to be the day where the topic fit. So the question of what to do for fun. So in the Midwest, college sports is everything. I mean, it's unlike anything that we've experienced, believe it or not. So the way that we get crazy for our pro sports teams is what they do for college and then some, right? And here's why. They have a personal connection to these college teams the way we could never understand the personal connection to even our pro sports teams. Your dad didn't play for the Jets or the Mets, right? But the entire family lineage goes back 6 generations to the University of Iowa. Or your next door neighbor never played for the Mets, but his grandson is, part of the Iowa State basketball team. You know what I'm saying? So there's these personal attachments that we would never that the average person wouldn't understand with the pro sports teams. So they go ham for their college teams. So especially Iowa State, incredible. Ohio State, I lived in Ohio State country. I've always hated the school, even before I even lived there. So moving there was fun as a Michigan fan. But being able to talk shit the last few years was a lot of fun.
4 years in a row.
From a football standpoint, it was a lot of fun. But no, I mean, to me, that was the biggest thing. And the mixture of pro sports teams I thought was really cool. Like when you go to a Walmart on a Sunday in, West Des Moines, Iowa, you see everybody in their football jerseys. For us, it's Jets, it's Giants, and then you sprinkle in Cowboys, Steelers, 49ers. It's kind of like the probably the three most and Packers too. Those are probably the 3 most popular in this market, or 4 most popular, right? There, it's like, because of Iowa, it's Vikings are like 3 hours up north. People are Rams fans because St. Louis was 6 hours down south. You go Kansas City, 3 hours northwest. Chicago, 4 hours up north. Now you take into account, okay, someone fell in love with the Steelers in the 80s or the 70s, or the Cowboys in the 70s or the 80s, or the Packers. Because you could drive to Green Bay easily from Des Moines, Iowa. So it was a really cool mixture. And then you'd have like the random jerseys of, the Seattle Seahawks, because Seneca Wallace was an Iowa State quarterback, or Brock Purdy, Iowa State quarterback. So you'll see those random ass jerseys. So I always thought that was cool.
All right, so you're out there in Ohio. Talk to us about the process to get back home there, to make the jump to New York to Z100 that's a big market jump. You're going from where you are to number 1.
Yeah. To me, I tell everybody the same thing. It's all about networking, right? So for me, it was emailing any and everyone possible. You always, anytime I would email them, cold email or whatever, I would say a compliment about their work, and I would try to get a little hyper specific. Hey, always been a fan. You know, if I'm emailing a boss, which is like the program director of the radio station, hey, been a fan of you ever since, and then do some research where you could even say like 2-3 markets ago, right? If someone's emailing me for the first time, like, hey, I've been like watching you since you were in Des Moines, Iowa. I'd be like, oh shit, okay, you got my interest now, right? Rather than, you know, oh, I've been listening to you all my life at Z100. Like, motherfucker, I've been here 3.5 years, so I know you're full of shit, right? But it takes 2 minutes to do any semblance of research to figure that stuff out. So I would literally cold email a lot of executives at iHeart. The worst that could happen is that they don't write back. And I say this to everyone. The worst that could happen is that they don't email you back. You get ignored. We get ignored daily on trains, on buses, at restaurants, at Marshall's and the Highland New York Plaza, right? We always get ignored. So why is this going to be any different? You send the email, then you just fuck off, forget about it. If you get an email and reply back, oh shit, we're in business. But that's what I would do. But the ass kissing early on gets their interest, which means they're more likely to write back, especially if you name drop. Hey, I've been following you since, you know, insert job here from 8 years ago, right? And I spoke to insert person here that you know will vouch for you, that they're tight with. Because now they're not gonna ignore you, because then they make their friend look bad. So now you're almost like, if they're a decent human being, you're strong arming them while patting their ego to write you back. And then boom, that's how the connection starts. So for me, that's how I would just kind of work things. And I always made it known to people, to anybody that would listen, I'm going to be at Z100. I want to be at Z100. I'm going to be there. What can I do? Yada, yada, yada. And then when the position opened up, you know, it was, I think, a really good fit. Like, it was at a time where there was a lot of civil unrest in the city, and a lot of just kind of diversity, you know, being pushed at the forefront, people talking about certain types, the way things look sometimes. So having a Puerto Rican kid born and raised in New York City on your airwaves, sounding like a regular ass New Yorker, it's probably going to be a good thing. It would behoove you probably to pull the trigger on that person rather than the best person from Dallas or Denver or Miami.
The accent helps when you're in New York, I think.
But also, like, I say this all the time, like, the two things that I always refer to is, like, when I was doing radio in all these other markets and I was nationally syndicated at one point, I can't be like, yo, dead ass. Like, nobody knows what that means. I can't even start. I could start a break by being like, yo, I'm mad tight. Juan Soto just signed with the Mets. I'm a diehard Yankee fan. And then go into the break. Like, you got, if I say it just like that, like, yo, I'm mad tight. Da, 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 you know what I'm talking about. If I say that in Cincinnati, yo, I'm mad tight. I lost my Reds tickets. They're going to be like, so you're happy you lost your Reds tickets? Because tight means cool. And it's like, nah, dog. It's like, it's just a different energy. It's different. Like, here in New York City, saying, yeah, nah, that means no. Saying no, yeah, that means yes. We know that. And we don't even realize how part of the everyday vernacular it is for us, right? Because we live it all the time. So this is by far the most comfortable I've ever been on the radio.
Incredibly well spoken and well said. We're talking about New York or nowhere. Let's talk about getting into Manhattan, because if you're from Staten Island or you live on Staten Island, it is the fucking worst. Now, I don't live too far from the transit center where the bus is, right? I kind of live
That's
by
worse
the movie
than I
theater.
have. That's worse
Right.
than what I do. So God bless you.
There's the 4 and the 4C that go up Richmond Avenue. And to get into the city, it's about an hour or so. So it's really not bad. But point being is that we have one train, all the buses, the traffic sitting, whether you go through the Jersey way, the Brooklyn way, it's a disaster. How is your commute getting to from Staten Island to work?
Doing it every day, you get used to it. So you get into your little routine of what podcast to listen to. I get easy motion sickness, so I can't really watch too many things on my phone. Luckily, the time I come home, it's not that bad. I mean, I get off air at 10 o'clock typically. So by the time I get to the bus stop, you know, it could be anywhere from 10:10 to 10:30. On a weeknight, ain't nothing happening out here. So it's very easy for me to get home. So what I usually do, I usually drive to the like 10 minutes or so to the last bus stop before the Verrazano. And then I get off at the first stop in the city. So I'm on the bus anywhere from like 15 to 25 minutes on a bad day, 30 minutes. And then I get off the bus and then I take the train uptown. One time I stayed on the bus the whole way. And I was like, I am never doing this shit again. It was like an hour 45. And I was like, I hate my life right now. And I never want to do this. So then I just get off, first stop in the city, take one of the yellow lines up to where the radio station is by Rockefeller Center. And I'm chilling at that point.
There you go.
So you got used to it.
That's
but
rough.
I tell everybody it's about an hour 15 door to door. From the time I leave my apartment to the time I get to the lobby of the radio station, it's about 1:15, 1:30 on a really bad day. Driving wise, it's about the same. But at least driving, you're in your own personal space. So while you're going through hell, you're at least in your own personal space going through hell.
Yeah. So what would you say is the biggest perk about being an on-air host for Z100?
I think giving people the opportunity to do things they otherwise would never do. I've been saying that since I was in Iowa. Concert tickets are expensive. A good example today, right? Like I had Chris Jericho here. I text a buddy of mine from high school and two cousins of mine and were like, yo, if you want to meet Jericho, just come. Like what other opportunity would you have not only to meet someone like Chris Jericho, but sit in on the interview, sit in the studio where there's only 3 people in this room during the interview. Now you're 4 and 5, right? Like that to me is so fucking cool. The highlights of my career, like if I had to list 10 of them, 7 or 8 of them, I'm not alone. I'm bringing family with me. WrestleMania ringside with 2 cousins on each night. Surprising my little brother, bringing him to a live event and being second row. Those are the things that I love. Being able to give, family members Jingle Ball tickets, which are like the most sought after thing ever. I surprised a girl last year with Taylor Swift tickets. They were my personal tickets. And let me tell you something. The night before, I knew I was going to surprise her with tickets. She was a cancer survivor. I loved her story. I just went on StubHub and I was like, let's see how much these tickets are. Bro, $7,000 for these tickets.
Wow.
$7,000.
Too much. It's way too much.
I sat there for a second and I was like, she doesn't know I'm going to give it to her. So I'm like, can I cancel on her and then just like cash this in? But she ended up going to the show and she's a friend of mine now. And she was just literally a complete stranger that happened to just DM me and caught my attention and her story and going through her Instagram and seeing all the positivity. And it was obvious she was a Taylor Swift fan and Taylor Swift helped her during her cancer battle years prior. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to the show. So yeah, I could give it to a friend who loves Taylor, but like, it'll mean way more to this badass who survived cancer. So that's the shit that I love more than anything else. Being on the radio is cool. Being able to meet people like you, super dope. But nothing beats giving people opportunities to do things they would never do otherwise.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome, man. A few months ago, you actually gave my sister some Nicki Minaj tickets, so she was very thankful for that. So I have heard that you're very generous.
Did she win with me?
No, it was something through like a business deal your companies did together, but you gave them to her. She didn't even have to. It wasn't part of the deal, so it was just very nice for you.
If it's who I'm thinking of, whatever, we can talk about it later.
It's a Staten Island ties with one of the business. So
say that again.
It's a Staten Island tie with the business where she was working out at the time, but we could talk after about.
Got it.
So you mentioned Chris Jericho, the interview. So give us some of your favorite interviews you've done for wrestling, and has there been any that have kind of gone off the rails due to the personality of the wrestler? Because we interviewed Enzo Amore. He was driving during it, and I don't think we said more than 3 words. We were like, "Hey Enzo, what's up?" He went for an hour 20 straight.
That sounds about right. So I feel comfortable saying this because I've been in the industry long enough to know sometimes you just don't click with someone, and you guys probably know that. Like some days, like let's say this doesn't let's just say this didn't click today. That's not a direct reflection of me. Maybe I was just having a bad day. Maybe you guys had a bad day and didn't even realize it. Maybe we just got off on the wrong foot. Things didn't vibe. That happened. So I've interviewed this person 4 times, twice in studio. So I could comfortably say one time was really bad that I pulled the plug on the interview like 8 minutes in and we were supposed to go like 20. It just didn't work out that day. It just didn't work out that day. I feel like I shouldn't say it, but then I also feel like, why not? Like I said, she's done great 3 other times. So
Ooh.
Charlotte Flair. It was
Okay.
Charlie. Like it just didn't mesh well that day for whatever reason. Maybe I was at the end of the PR run and she was giving me kind of short answers. And you guys know short answers are not what you're looking for.
You coming back soon? You excited? Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But the key is to not try to avoid asking yes or no questions. Try to get it to get answers. It just wasn't 8 minutes in. I was like, all right, ladies and gentlemen, Charlotte Flair, and it was a Zoom. So you guys know firsthand the Zoom interviews are always a little tougher. Fine. Um, so she's the only one that I would ever say it just didn't vibe that day. Everyone else, I mean, I'm lucky enough where I've never had a bad experience, but my favorites, Chris Jericho was really good. I did one with him about 2 years ago that was really good in studio. I'm happy with today. We went about 30 minutes. Ricky Starks, I did one with him when he was a couple of years ago. He was
Free
so
Ricky Starks. You got to get your phone. You got Khan on the phone. You got a free Ricky Starks over there.
he he was very open and vulnerable, and I appreciated that a lot. Like he was open and vulnerable in ways I wasn't expecting, very honest, and I loved that. um Tony Khan's always a treat. Oh, Becky Lynch was amazing. Becky was she was in studio, so that makes life so much easier when you're in front of these people, dude. Too, like the energy is there, the vibe. You see each other, you feed off that, so it makes life so much easier when they're in front of you. So she was pretty great too.
Awesome. So give us your dream interview. It could be a wrestler, it could be someone in
The
sports.
Rock,
Name it. There it
easily.
is.
The
The
Rock
Easy
Rock.
immediately.
peasy. That's the answer, yeah.
That is
Yeah,
the
the Rock. I
answer.
mean, I today. It's funny today with Jericho. I'm like, oh, that is that where he like mentioned his debut in Chicago. I was like, oh, August 9th, 1999. He's like, yeah. And then he mentioned San Diego. I was like, isn't that where you won the undisputed title? He's like, yeah. Like I am just a nerd about wrestling. I am chock full of useless wrestling shit.
I love this. We would get along so well. I remember stuff when I was a kid too.
I will just randomly say like random wrestlers to people, and when people don't understand it, it makes me so sad. Like I made a Bastion Booger reference and somebody didn't get it, and I was like so disappointed in them, where I judged their wrestling knowledge because they didn't know who Bastion Booger was.
I always said that if I ever met The Rock, I'd want to play rock, paper, scissors with him.
Would it be called you paper scissors?
Yeah, I don't. I'm gonna win because he has to be rock, so I'm going paper every time.
We should. I think the dream would be Anthony Bowen against The Rock in rock paper scissors.
That'd be pretty good.
That'd be pretty good. Yeah, I love that.
There's no following up on that. This interview's over. We're done.
We're almost done, actually. We're almost done with the rundown. We got like 2 questions left. So let's start wrapping up here. So to go along with what you said before about the whole manifesting stuff and like the spirituality stuff, I also have this thing where it's like if I'm driving, I have to see every license plate because whether you see signs or license plate or stuff, and I love me some good stupid license plate. I love good custom license plate. How do you feel about that?
He's got one. Come on.
I was gonna say, do you know that I have one? Is that why you're saying it?
Yeah.
Okay.
We do our homework. We do our
I
homework.
see you driving, Josh.
I love it, dude. So I started doing that in Iowa where I did like listen to me or whatever. And I was like, yo, I need to come up with another license plate because I was getting a second car in Ohio. And I was like, what if I did Yo Josh? And the reaction that I got from people of like, don't do that. And to me, I'm like, oh, now I have to. Like, if that's your react, if everybody was like, oh, yeah, that's cool, I would be like, nah, it's not a good enough reaction. I got to think of something else. Listen to me, it was a nice one because I'm on the radio. But yeah, the moment I say that and people are like, there was like 3 people in particular that were like, please don't do that. I'm like, boom, now I have to. And then when I moved out here and I searched it and it popped up easily, I was very excited because I'm obnoxious. And I got to say, it works out. I've had many people, family members and stuff will see me pull up and will kind of do one of those and then look up like, oh, it's Josh.
There he is, making your
rather than remembering like random letters
or
whatever numbers.
Sure. Absolutely. So, Josh, in your life or your career, what would you say has been your I'm right moment What I mean by that, it's a time or place where you wanted to pursue something. You asked somebody for advice. They said, "Yo, Josh, that's not going to work out. What are you, crazy? Why would you do that?" And you were like, "You know what? I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway." And in the end, you will see why it is that I'm right about this. And I could tell you, I told you so.
I had someone early in my career when they asked me my like 5-10 plan, 5 year where you see yourself in 5 years and 10 years. I said Z100 in 5 years. And then they were like, okay, maybe not realistic, do something realistic. I was like, all right, I'll be at Z100 in 10 years. And they were like, okay, but like, just you may not ever get to Z100 because obviously it's limited slots, it's limited positions, like, it's whatever. And I was like, I could definitely do it in 10 years. Um, and I understand the point of the exercise. I do, but at the time, like, you can't tell me that I'm wrong, right? Like I'm fully focused on I'm doing this and I'm gonna do it in 10 years. And that was my mindset. And to that person, kiss my ass, I did it in 7. So
Love that. Absolutely love that. Josh, we appreciate your time. This was amazing. I think just to do the short little call stuff, I kind of get insight into what you do day to day was amazing too. We wish you the best of luck.
thank you.
We took a little bit to get you locked in at a certain time for this interview, but it was well worth the wait, and we mean that.
Worked out
We
perfectly.
we have to link up soon. Unfortunately, like I said, I have my big friend dinner tomorrow, Christmas dinner, or else I would be there with you at Final Battle. But let's get together soon. Let's go to a wrestling event. Like I said, my friend and I, we always go to wrestling events here in the city.
Wrestling
We'll link up
event,
sometime
sports
next year.
event, new
Yeah,
China buffet, new door, wrestling interview. I mean, there's plenty of
There's
options.
apparently a
there's plenty
seafood
of stuff.
buffet. There's a seafood buffet on South Avenue by
Yeah,
Forest.
Umi, I went.
Yeah,
It's pretty
Romy, it's
good.
pretty good. Yeah.
I get my hair braided over there, and I just discovered it because I have not been to that part of the island in a while. So I'm really excited to check it out. But also, as a side note, I also dated a girl early on in my radio career, and she messaged me saying I was going to amount to nothing and to give up on my dream because it's never going to work out. I printed that chat out and I taped it to my closet, and looked at it every day for years. Her name is Natalie Tombasco, and I don't give a shit because I put her on blast every chance I get because I'm at the biggest station on the planet. She's from Great Kills, and she could kiss my ass now. So
Oh, really? I'm from Great Hills.
I
That's
was looking her up on Instagram.
no, not yet. Hold on. So it said, Josh, the first night at bed when you left, Ron made out with 2 girls. We got the letter. But anyway, Josh, like I said, this was amazing. We really, really appreciate it. What we do here is we always give our guests the last words at the very end. So we know you're on social media, you got a presence. So if there's anything else, beyond that you would like to share or promote for yourself, by all means, go ahead. And, we wish you the best. We'll link up soon. Happy holidays, you and your family, and keep doing what you're doing. You're very, very entertaining, man.
appreciate you, gentlemen. The one thing I will say is don't let anybody tell you shit about your dreams. Whatever you want to do, just fucking do it.
You know I'm right. All right, Josh, this has been great. Thank you so much for your time. For our very special guest, Josh Martinez, my co-host Joe Calabrese, I am Nick Durst, and this has been You Know I'm Right.